Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Explainer. In today's video, we'll recap a 2018 romantic fantasy film about a mother, whose afterlife appears to fulfill her promise of spending the monsoon with her son. To learn more about the film, stick with us until the end of the video.
The film begins with a 6-year-old boy named G.O.D reading a book given to him by his mother. The book tells the tale of Cloudland, a realm between earth and sky where people live after death. The dead people stay there until they are warmly remembered by their families, and then they reappear in reality to meet them during the monsoon season. Then, animatedly, it is demonstrated that a mother penguin is watching her lonely kid from Cloudland. As the monsoon rain begins, she boards the train and travels to the real world to spend time with her child. They have a good time in the monsoon, but as it ends, the train arrives to take the mother penguin back to Cloudland. She has to leave her child again, but this time she is content because she has spent enough time with him. Even though this is only a fictional story, G.O.D believes that this actually occurs and the deceased visit their loved ones in the afterlife. G.O.D's mother, Soo A, died a year ago, and he believes she will return for him in the monsoon. G.O.D is looked after by his father, Woo-jin. He tries hard not to make G.O.D miss his mother, but he, too, cannot forget Soo A. He's a total newbie at housework and can't even drive, so he owns only a bicycle. According to Woo-jin's relatives, Soo A's condition started to deteriorate shortly after giving birth to G.O.D, and he was the reason for her death. G.O.D overheard this and started blaming himself for his mom's death. A year has passed since Soo A's death, yet Woo-jin is still a noob at housework while doing his best to be a caring father to G.O.D. One morning, to wake G.O.D up for breakfast, Woo-jin goes to his room but discovers he isn't there. After some searching, he discovers him laying in his mother's cabinet among her clothes. Then, before breakfast, G.O.D watches on TV that the monsoon season is due to begin in a week. He is overjoyed that his mother will arrive during the monsoon. He joyfully tells his father that the monsoon is approaching, which means that his mother will leave Cloudland to meet him. Woo-jin sighs deeply and tells G.O.D that she will definitely come to visit her son. After breakfast, G.O.D puts on his uniform, and the father-son duo leaves for school. In school, the administration organizes a race in which fathers must participate for their kids to win. The race begins, and Woo-jin quickly takes the lead over the other fathers, but he experiences lightheadedness and falls to the ground unconscious. Little G.O.D panics and rushes to his father as he collapses on the ground, but thankfully, he soon regains consciousness. When G.O.D wakes up in the morning, it is heavily raining. He rushes to his father and asks if it's monsoon rain. After being assured that it is monsoon raining, he puts on his raincoat and walks along with his father to the adjoining railway station, hoping that the Cloudland train will drop his mom off there. Woo-jin tries to persuade him that this only happens in stories, but G.O.D insists on going. On the way, G.O.D informs Woo-jin that his mother told him she would come to meet him and that she cannot break her commitment. They wait at the station for a long time but find no one. G.O.D is upset because his mother betrayed her vow, but Woo-jin consoles him by saying that the dead only resurface in stories. On their way back home, they come across a railroad tunnel and notice a woman sitting semi-consciously on the railroad track. Without seeing her face, G.O.D announces that she is his mother. He goes up to her and notices that her hair is covering her face. He wipes her hair away from her face, and the two of them cannot believe their eyes when they discover the woman is none other than Soo A, G.O.D's mother. Woo-jin pauses for a while, astounded that his wife, whom he buried a year ago, is sitting right in front of him. G.O.D feels overjoyed and addresses her as his mom, but to their shock, she has no recollection of who she is or who they are. Woo-jin inquires if she knows him, but she denies knowing him. G.O.D informs her that she is his mother and Woo-jin's wife, but she refuses to believe them. G.O.D invites her to accompany them to their home, to which she agrees. At home, G.O.D tries to recover her memories by showing her all of her photos with him and Woo-jin, but she fails to recall her past. G.O.D, overcome by emotion, tells her that she died a year ago and has come from Cloudland to spend time with him. Before he can say anything else, Woo-jin takes him into a room and instructs him not to tell her about her death or Cloudland since it would impair her brain. As they exit the room, Soo A asks them what she was doing in the tunnel and where Cloudland is. Hearing this, the father-son duo lied to her, telling her that she has a memory loss disorder and has been admitted to Cloudland Hospital. Woo-jin adds that they were playing hide-and-seek in a tunnel, where she drooled from exhaustion and lost her memory once more. Their plan works, as she accepts to be Woo-jin's wife and G.O.D's mother. The next morning, Woo-jin drops G.O.D off at school before heading off to work. G.O.D skips class and returns home to spend time with his mother. They spend the entire day playing cards, hide-and-seek, and boxing. When Woo Jin gets home in the evening, he discovers Soo A and Ji-ho enjoying themselves passionately. He is overjoyed to see the two of them satisfied. At dinner, Ji-ho insists on eating Soo A's homemade rice cakes. Even though she has no idea how to make rice cakes, she gets up to make them for her son. She puts macaroni into hot oil for frying, but the macaroni starts to bounce and spew out of the pan since it has been overheated. Before the blazing hot macaroni hits Soo A, Woo Jin leaps over her, causing some of the macaroni to burn his torso. Soo A administers ointment to his wounds and inquires as to how they met and married, since the way he protected her demonstrates his undying love for her. Woo Jin informs her that they have known each other since they were teenagers because they were at the same school. She was a brilliant student and class topper, whereas he was a shy and mediocre student who excelled in swimming. He adds that he liked her too much and glanced at her constantly during classes but was unable to express his feelings. On the last day of school, she requested that each student write something in her diary. She also approached him, and he wrote his best wishes for her in her diary, but as she walked away, she mistakenly took his pen with her. Woo Jin tells her that after their last meeting, he couldn't stop thinking about her and was upset that he hadn't asked her for her phone number. He goes on to say that, after some searching, he got her phone number and contacted her. Woo Jin asked her to meet him, which she accepted, and they finally met after a long time. She returned his pen, and they continued to meet regularly. They went shopping, watched movies, and did many other things. Woo Jin concludes by stating that after a few days, they both expressed their love for each other and shared their first kiss. After hearing all of this, she is still unable to recall her past. The next morning, she goes into the storeroom to clean and comes across Hong. Hong is terrified upon seeing her and misidentifies her as the ghost of Soo A. Before he screams in fear, Woo Jin arrives to calm him down and inform him of everything. A few days later, the happy family departs for a picnic. They spend the entire day enjoying each other's company and having a great time. But things don't go well towards the conclusion of the day, as Woo Jin swoons from exhaustion. Soo A is concerned about his condition, as Ji-ho informs her that his father frequently swoons due to exhaustion. When Woo Jin awakens, he discovers Soo A next to him. She immediately inquires as to why he frequently swoons. At first, he denies having any disease, but after she insists, Woo Jin tells her that before their marriage, when he was a professional swimmer, he practiced swimming a lot to win the international championship, and while doing so, he contracted a disease that causes him to become unconscious for a short period whenever he works hard or is under stress. He says that it is an incurable ailment that caused him to break up with her in the past. Woo Jin goes on to say that they were separated for a while, but it became painful for him, and he returned to patch things up with her, only to discover her leaving her college with another guy in his car. Woo Jin mistook him for her new boyfriend and left with a broken heart. Soo A inquires as to how they got married if they had previously broken up. Woo Jin responds that after a few weeks, she came to him and informed him that she knows Woo Jin has an incurable disease, which is why he left her, but she is willing to marry him in his current condition, and this is how they got married. She is pleased to hear this, and they both embrace with smiles on their faces. Soo A has grown to like Woo Jin, but she is unaware that she must depart shortly. The next morning, while eating breakfast, they watch the news and learn that the monsoon is about to end. Woo Jin becomes depressed after hearing this news and immediately switches off the television. Later that day, while cleaning, Soo A discovers her old diary and begins reading it, which shocks her and gives her a hint of what is going on. When Woo Jin arrives home in the evening, he discovers that Soo A is teaching Ji-ho how to cook. Soo A keeps on imparting to him a variety of household tasks, including cleaning, laundry, cooking, and nearly all of them. After a few days, while doing chores, she discovers Ji-ho's storybook about Cloudland and a mother penguin. After reading the story, she fully understands what is going on and realizes she has very little time left with her family. Later, she starts watching Ji-ho's childhood videos to remember those times, and she becomes quite sentimental. Woo Jin sees her sobbing but does not approach her since he realizes she now knows everything. Later that night, he and Hong go to the railway tunnel and seal it with timbers, hoping that by doing so, they can prevent Soo A from returning to Cloudland. The next morning, everything went as usual, and Woo Jin left for work. At work, he receives a call from Ji-ho's friend's mother, asking him to meet her at their residence. He goes right there, where he sees Ji-ho. The lady informs him that his son has been splashing soapy water on her car for several days and that if he does not stop, she will punish him. Woo Jin questions Ji-ho on why he did this, but he remains silent. Woo Jin apologizes to the lady, and they walk towards the house. On the way back home, Ji-ho starts crying hysterically. He reveals that his friend told him that every time they wash their car, it starts raining. So he's doing this because he wants them to wash their car every day so that the rain doesn't stop, because if it does, his mother will return to Cloudland. Woo-jin becomes emotional when he hears this and hugs him to soothe him. In the meantime, Soo A goes to Hong's bakery and asks him to do her a favor for a few years because she won't be here then. Here, Woo-jin visits the railway tunnel he sealed and discovers that it is now open as a result of rainwater dislodging the timbers. He becomes depressed and returns home. Later that night, they joyfully celebrate Ji-ho's birthday. The next morning is a festival at Ji-ho's school. Woo-jin goes to work, while Soo A attends the festival. During the seminar, the teacher asks the students what they want to be when they grow up. Many pupils declare they want to be physicians, pilots, engineers, and so on. But when it comes to Ji-ho, he claims all he wants is to be a good son and serve his father. Hearing such words from a child, the audience begins to applaud him. As Soo-ha leaves the school for home after the ceremony, she notices that the sun is shining brightly and there is no sign of rain. When she notices this, she begins walking toward the tunnel instead of returning home. In the meantime, at Woo-jin's workplace, he observes someone drowning, and although he knows that diving in to help him may cause him to lose consciousness, he dives in and saves the man. Nevertheless, this causes him to become unconscious. When Ji-ho notices the sun shining and no sign of rain, he starts to get worried as well. Instead of going to class, Ji-ho heads home to check on his mother. Woo-jin regains consciousness, immediately exits the ambulance, and heads toward the tunnel. As Ji-ho arrives home and does not see his mother, he realizes she must be at the tunnel and dashes there. He runs toward her as he sees her enter the tunnel. He hugs her and says he can't live without her, to which she responds that she has no choice but to leave now because her time is up and she doesn't have any other options. Ji-ho tells her that this is all his fault because he heard from his relatives that his mother died as a result of him. Soo A breaks into tears and tells Ji-ho not to blame himself for her death because he is the one who gave her so much happiness in such a short period of time. Soo A then makes him a vow to always be a good son and take care of his father. Meanwhile, Woo-jin arrives at the tunnel completely weary and on the verge of drooling. Yet all he sees is Soo A vanishing. The scene then cuts to a few days later, and the father-son duo is now performing housework flawlessly. Later that day, when Woo-jin gets home from work, he discovers keys and a note. After he reads it, he learns it is from Soo A, and she has left something for him in the storeroom. Without holding back, Woo-jin enters the storeroom, where he discovers a diary from Soo A. She wrote in her diary that she, like him, had loved him since they were teenagers but was reluctant to express her feelings. She also attempted to contact him after school but was unsure how to begin their conversation. Then one day, just as she was going to overcome her hesitation and call him, she received a call from him, and they met. She stated that the day she got his letter about the breakup was the worst day of her life and that she missed him a lot during their breakup period. Soo A also mentioned the day Woo-jin came to her college to meet her. She claimed that the man he saw with her was nothing more than her classmate and that she, too, noticed him standing and staring at her from a nook. But when she got out of the car to greet him, she was hit by a van and fell unconscious. She went on to say that when she regained consciousness, she found herself in a railway tunnel with him and Ji-ho 8 years in the future, but at that time she didn't have any memories of her past. Soo A went on to say that when she regained consciousness in reality, she discovered she had been in a coma for 6 weeks and all she saw was a glimpse of her future. She also stated that she had once considered not reconciling with Woo-jin since she knew that marrying him would result in her death. But she couldn't live without Woo-jin and Ji-ho, so she ran to Woo-jin one day and proposed marriage to him despite his medical condition. This was the time Woo-jin mentioned earlier that Soo A met him after their breakup, and they decided to get married. She writes at the end of her diary that the time she spent with him was the best of her life. Actually, the film has 2 timelines. One was where Soo A regained consciousness 8 years later in a railway tunnel, and the other was where the 2 lovebirds split up. Now back in the present, several years have passed, but Woo-jin continues to read the diary every day to remember all those wonderful times. After a while, Hong arrives at their house with a cake and a greeting card for Ji-ho, who has grown into a handsome teenage boy. It is then revealed that the favor Soo A requests from Hong is to give Ji-ho greeting cards and cake on each of his birthdays. Ji-ho smiles as he reads the cards and says that he is keeping his promise to his mom and taking excellent care of his father, and this is where the movie ends.
The film's ending is subject to debate as it is unclear if Soo A has died permanently or has simply returned to the afterlife. Though Woo Jin and Ji-ho are left with memories of their time with Soo A and the assurance that she would always be with them in their hearts, the main theme of the film is one of hope and the everlasting impact that love has. I hope you enjoyed the recap. If so, then give this video a thumbs up. And yes, if you want to be the first to know about my new videos, hit the subscribe button right now. It may seem worthless to you, but it is a huge motivator for me to keep going. I'll see you in my next video. Have fun and keep watching the Movie Explainer.